My name is Meiджър Съмнър. I'm a member of what they call the Narinderi nation, and I come from down along what we call the Kulturen, down on the southeast coast of South Australia. And our people been in that country for thousands and thousands of years, along with all other races around this country, around Australia. I lived on an Aboriginal settlement that was, I was born there. It was run by superintendents, government people, church people, same as every other, I suppose you could say, reserve all through Canada and the United States. They're very similar. You had people there taking control of you, taking control of your culture, taking control of your language, your ceremonies, sending you to learn English, learn the schooling. People said that was good for us. I suppose in a way today we have to learn that, because it's how we can make a living in this country today, in society today. We have to be able to do that because we need to earn a living. We need to fit into society some way. But that's where I come from, down along that part of the country, along the coast there, with our creation stories about Narinderi, about the creation of our land. We still, in our country, we still talk about it. We still speak a little bit of our language. But when you look at it, all the language that's written down, we can speak it without any English. But I think today it's, in a way, we're lazy. English is easy to speak. We grew up speaking English. We grew up speaking our own language. But we still choose to speak English because not many people around us, wherever we go in this country, speaks our language. If we stayed in our own part of the country, maybe that would come stronger. The language would be spoken more. So I do a lot of dancing, traditional dancing, dancing the stories of our dreaming, of our creation, telling our stories through dance, telling our stories through imitating the animals, hunting the animals, imitating them so that we tell the world of who we are. Tell the world this is who we are as Aboriginal people in this country. I've travelled all over the world, different parts of the world. I've been to London, I've been to India, South Korea, been up to Canada, America, New Zealand, danced in all them areas, danced at different festivals in and around Winnipeg in Canada, danced at the Winnipeg Folklorama, danced at a lot of the different reservations right across from Vancouver to a place called Nelson House in northern Manitoba. We was invited to go up there and dance by the Indigenous people, by the Aboriginal people of that country. We danced on their reserve. We danced for their children out on the, I think it was called Red River or Red Lake. We went out there and we danced there. My people, my family, the people that travelled with us from a different clan, they danced, they done all of our dancing. So I've travelled to different parts of the world. I just got back yesterday from the Umatilla people up in Pendleton in Oregon. Went up there and on their reserves, looked at what they were doing. looked at some of their alcohol programs, but I also looked at their ways of how they looked after their people, looked at their cultural programs, their cultural centre, went and looked at they've got a big casino there. You had to look at that and how they use that money to benefit their own people. You got stuff like that working in different countries. Aboriginal people in this country need to do something like that. But we also need to look after the land. We also need to look after who we are and how we're connected to the land. But I've got a program out what we call Aboriginal for a Day. I take that to all the different schools around South Australia, different parts of the state, different states in Australia, and we go into the schools and spend the day with the children. I think the program would be good if we started that program and set it up for adults, so that we educate adults about Indigenous people of this country, about how we got respect and how we honour the land, but also how we respect each other, about even the animals. When we hunt the animals for food, traditionally there was a dance or a song that was sung after the animal died to respect the spirit of that animal, and we do the dance to respect that animal for giving up its life for us, giving up its life so that we will survive by using it as food. So I think people in some parts of the world have lost their way of how they feel about themselves, how they feel about people around them, how they feel about the land. When we travel and when we do all sorts of performances, we ask our ancestors to join us. It doesn't matter where we are. We ask our ancestors to be there with us while we perform, while we do dance in a different people's countries. We ask permission from them people, from their ancestors, to look over us while we do a performance, while we talk about how animals, talk about who we are. We ask permission from them people. We ask permission from our ancestors. We encourage them to be there. And when we're doing that, we also ask the ancestors of the people that we're doing the performance, ask the ancestors of them people to be there so that they can understand why we're there, while we go and try to educate people about us, about the Narinderi, about the Aboriginal people of this country. And the only person I can talk, or only race of people I can talk about, or that is my own clan, my own tribe, because I can't go and speak on another's creation stories, because I haven't got the right to do that. So it's, when we talk about culture, even though I'm a Naриндери and I'm from the Naриндери nation, I went outside of my nation to another tribe within very close vicinity to us, only a few hours drive. And because some of our ceremonies weren't in place in our own area, I went to them and asked them permission to go and do ceremonies with them. And because I want to bring a lot of our ceremonies back into practice. And that's with initiation. So I became an initiated man through their areas. And I when the ceremonies and that happen up there, I've got the right to be involved in that ceremony, the right to be heard if there's any talks going on in another tribe. So it's good for me to do that, because to me it's bringing back something that we've had for thousands of years. It's a process of bringing our own ceremonies back by using another area's ceremony. And we learn from each other. We learn from indigenous people all around the world. We learn from indigenous people that's close to us. We learn from people that have similar practices in ceremonies. We learn from them. And we need to put them back into our society. I see a lot of our people going in a different direction, going in a direction that it's all about money, it's all about me, it's all about looking after me, looking after yourself, looking after what you want, not what this earth needs, not what other people around you that you can share with. It's good to get all that me stuff, but share it. Share it with other nations. Share it with people that's very close to you. Share it with people of this country. This country is a big country. There's a lot of people that can come to this land. But when they come, they should talk to us to understand how we feel. See, I was talking to an Aboriginal man a few years ago, and he said, for Aboriginal people and non-Aboriginal people to get on in this country, he said, why don't the government, the people in Canberra that make up all the rules, why don't they jump on a boat and sail outside of the boundary of Australia? And then all the modern things today, the mobile phones and satellites and all that, why don't they ask permission to come back into this country? And I thought about that, and I thought that it would be a good thing if the government's done that. Not just come in and dictate to us, tell us where we can go, what we can do. Educate us. You look at the park. We spoke earlier about this park here. They try to make this look like England. They came in and they fenced off the land. If you didn't use a plow or cultivate the land, then to people you weren't human. You didn't have a culture. You didn't have a religion you didn't believe in anything. But they didn't ask us that. They told us that we didn't have anything. They didn't ask us about our culture, about our creation, about our stories that's been there for thousands and thousands of years. You got people that and I get asked this all the time in schools, is the stories that I tell about the creation of our land, are they true? And I say to the little children, I say, well, do you believe in the Bible? They say, yeah. I said, well, I believe in my stories, because to me, that means, the stories to me means that how I came to be, how my people came in this country, because of these stories. And then they finally, some of them, they understand. They say, oh yeah, yeah. But you look at the Bible. The Bible's been there for 2,000 years. Our stories go back 100,000 years, 80, 60. People really don't know how far our stories go back, how far they say that the Aboriginal race is the oldest culture in the world, and yet people come in and try to change us. We lived in this country for thousands and thousands of years. The water was good, the land was good, all the animals, they were good. We lived on the kangaroos, the emus, we hunted them for food, all the berries. We had everything, the fish. We lived a rich life in this country until the coming of another race. After that, our lifestyles disappeared. Whole nations disappeared because of the diseases. The common cold was a big one. Measles, smallpox came into this country and destroyed everything. Some of the Aboriginal people never even seen the people that come here. They never seen the white people. They died because of a disease that got there first. Now, when we talk about living together, it'd be good if we started educating people about this land, educating people about how we can live together. Because today, there's that many people in this land, in this country, no one's going home because they don't know where they come from. Most of the people in this country, they don't know what lands, they can't trace their families back. They can't trace their origins back. They're all a mixture, marrying into each other. So you've got German, you've got English, you've got Irish, you've got all the different races in the world, in this country. If it keeps going like this, then we'll all become one, because you've got Aboriginal people mixing in too. Intermarriages, racial intermarriages. You've got different races of people marrying today. I mean, that's a good thing. That way you won't be able to, there'd be no prejudice, because you'll be all one. But for now, I think people should start talking to the indigenous people of this country, the indigenous people of the world, talking to them. But also creating something that we all belong to, that we all can say, yeah, that's us. Not say, oh, not that's them and that's us, or that's us and that's them. No, we need to get together. We need to live in this world, otherwise this world is not going to happen. It's going to finish. It's going to be, a couple of months ago they're talking about mining on the moon. What's going to happen then? All the minerals are gone from this country, so they have to go somewhere else. All the mining that goes on in this country, do people really need it? Or is it a greed thing, that people need it because they need money? They need to build something else. They need to go somewhere else. When we talked earlier part, you said about the media is a good way to get things out, to get people to listen. And yet, the media is one of the downfalls, I suppose, for Aboriginal people. I look at the media on TV sometimes, and in the newspapers, on the billboards around Adelaide. You don't see any faces of Aboriginal people there. Sometimes you can walk all day in the city and not see another Aboriginal person. But this media here, if you're creating something from indigenous people to tell the rest of the world that they should come and work alongside of us, that they should work on something where we all can benefit from this earth. As Aboriginal people, when we hunted, when we went out hunting, when we went out looking for berries and that, and brought the food back to the community, everyone had a feed. Everyone shared with each other. Today, you build a fence around your house. That's to stop people coming in. That's to keep whatever you've got inside of that little bit of space you pay for, when we all should be looking at each other. And you can go out for the next 20, 30 years and not say hello to your next door neighbour, or they don't talk to you. There's none of that left. When you go out and say, oh, good morning, or sing out across the road, how you going? How's things going? You feeling all right? Today, I know people that don't even know their next door neighbours' names. My children say to me that some of them get a bit upset sometimes. They say, I talk to everyone. I talk to people that I don't know. And I said, well, that's okay. Because after I've spoken to them, they know me. They know who I am. They know where I come from. And then I know who they are too. I know where they come from. So people that walk past people all the time and don't even bother to say hello, we have to get away from that. We have to make it our business to say hello to people. You get a negative response, that's okay. At least you're the one that made that first move. Maybe next time they'll say hello to someone else. Sometimes it takes a long time for the penny to drop in some people's mind, to say, hey, the light goes on and say, yeah, that's what that person tried to say, is to communicate with me, communicate with other people. Sometimes we just communicate with our families. We don't go outside of that little circle. We stay there. That's not good for us. Educating people about who we are is a good thing. Educating people about this country is a good thing. Educating people of how they can make contact with each other, that's a good thing too. So, my group, my clan, my nation, have been involved in a lot of things, certain people. You've got the man on the $50 note, David Yanipin. He was known in Australia as the our Leonardo da Vinci because of his education, because of he was a very smart man. A long time ago, he showed a couple of people what he made, and he called it the boomerang principle. He spun these two boomerangs together, and as he spun them, they lifted. So when they had the story in the papers, or in the advertiser a few years back, and he showed it to a few people, and they took the idea, and about 15 years after that, they developed the first helicopter, and that was from the boomerang principle, as he called it. But he also redesigned the handpiece they shear the sheep with, and that's on the $50 note alongside of him. When he designed that, it worked better. So they still use his design today in all over the world, of how he redesigned the handpiece for the shearing the sheep. There's other people that's been involved in meetings all around the world, been involved in meeting with different indigenous people. So the Narinderi is a group that will go outside of the boundaries, and they'll travel just to hear someone else's story, just to look at what they're doing and seeing if we can bring that back here, and to educate ourselves. It's not just about us or this country, or just about us and which lands we live in. We have to look outside and bring that education back. We have to go there and meet people. We have to go there and be a part of other people's lives. Be a part of not just us here, but be a part of people's lives all around the world. And if we can do that by using this media, using what you've got, then that's a good thing. And people start listening to each other, not just listening to me or listening to some other person, but each other. We have to start looking at that. If this world is going to survive, talk about global warming, you know, it's a part of we're all a part of it, I suppose, about destruction. Because today we practice, we drive cars, we live in homes, we use TV, we use electricity. We can't sit back and blame one race of people for doing that, because we're all a part of it. What we have to do is look how we can fix that. Not sit back and point the finger and say, they're the ones that done this. No. Because we're a part of that too. If people come and listen to us, how we did live in this country, how we did live in certain parts where our areas are, then maybe we will develop something together from that. But as it goes today, we're all still a part of, even though all of our stories are there, sometimes we neglect to practice them. Sometimes we forget to tell people about them. With our dancing, with our traditional stories that we tell about the land, the creation of different things, we should be promoting that all the time. Even though we're in a country that's, how could I say, it's got so many races of people that bring all their culture to this country. They bring all their stories, but they also bring all their negative issues. And them negative issues stay here too when they come in. When we do ceremonies, sometimes we do the smoking ceremonies. That's the same as the Catholic Church doing the incense. Same thing. We ask our ancestors to be there to move all negative energy out when we have our meetings. Now, if everyone was to do that when they came into this country, to move all the energy out, negative energy, away from them, ask their ancestors to take that, maybe we live together in a different way. All the different types of problems that are created in this country, most of them come from outside of this country. If you look at Aboriginal people, we had our arguments, we had our wars, but we didn't slaughter each other because we needed each other. We depended on each other for certain ceremonies, for certain different dances, different types of ceremonies that we had to practice. We needed nation of people to be involved in that. Our marriages, we had to marry outside of our nation, outside of our clan, our ngachi, because we knew all about the mixing of blood. We knew all about marrying too close. Because if we would have done that, just married within our own tribe for thousands of years, there would have been a problem. There would have been a problem of how people were born, how people grew up. So it was, Aboriginal people in all countries, they knew about a lot of things. They knew about different types of ways about the country, about the land, about the animals. We have to live together with each other, but we also have to live together with the animals, with the birds. See the ducks walking around. We have to live together with that, with the ways of different tribes. But we knew each other. We traded for thousands of years with each other. Traveled into each other's countries. Even though we had disagreements, them disagreements were talked out. They were dissolved through some way of payment, dancing, trade, marriages, all that. Aboriginal people wasn't asked about this country when people first came here. They didn't ask how you lived. People came in and said, well, now this is how you're going to live. We talk about the ration houses down in our country. I still remember my grandmother going and getting rations from the ration store on the reserve that we live on, the mission station that we live on, Point Macleay. It was like leading people from one area to another. They had a ration house set up there. When people got used to eating the rations there, they moved it to another area. So the people followed that food. So when people got used to eating it, they didn't go on hunt. They didn't start eating the right food. A lot of our people got sugar, diabetes. They got heart conditions. They've got all the health ailments that is caused by a lot of the food that we got used to eating. We were in some ways nomadic in our own land. We moved around. When the hunting got a bit slow in areas, we traveled, but within our own land, within our own tribal lands. People say, oh no, you moved and you were nomadic all over the country. That wasn't right. People didn't know us. They talked about the walkabout. We did that within our own country. We didn't go to another person's land and walk into that and take over. We had respect for each other. We had respect for each other's lands. Today, that respect is not there. It's not there because we live a different lifestyle. We've been educated in the Western way, educated in the way that we should live. People told us this is how you should live. So they educated us and they educated the children. They educated the children to take over and to think differently about themselves. So I was listening, I was reading in a book that I seen down on the Kurrung, one of our old ladies wrote. They called her Queen Ethel, but there was no queens and kings in our culture. That was only a way that Western people put it. They called her Queen Ethel. So she said she wrote in this book that when she was a little girl, she lived on this mission station where they had this church. And in that church they had this big book. And in that big book there was these two people. They lived in this big garden. When they lived in this big garden, there was this snake that came. And after the coming of this snake, people started killing each other. They started being ashamed of who they were. So they had to put clothes on their body because they was ashamed of their bodies. She said, the white man, that's our snake in this country. Because after the coming of the white man, we became ashamed of who we were. We became ashamed of our bodies. We started killing each other. We started being involved with alcohol, with everything else that we knew nothing about. See, when the white people first come into our part of the country, we thought they were our ancestors, our spirits coming back. We soon found out that they wasn't. The country was raped. The people was raped. Was murdered. We soon found out that they weren't our ancestors coming back. And it's not to, I say that not to blame everything on everyone. I say that just to let people know where we're coming from. Today we don't have to blame anyone for our destruction in a way. We don't have to blame anyone for the damage we do to each other, the damage we do to ourselves, because we've got a right to do as we please with our own body. If we drink alcohol, we smoke tobacco, we eat too much, we can do that. But don't blame anyone if you're going to start drinking, if you're going to finish up with alcohol poisoning or cirrhosis of the liver. We're hooked on it, I suppose, yeah. We've got an addiction, some of us. I've been off of alcohol now for over 30 years. I don't drink, I don't smoke. I encourage other people to get away from that because it's like everything else, it's not a part of our culture. Stuff that we have to learn from our elders to pass that on. About the land, that's not there anymore because our elders, they were educated in a different way. They were educated in a way of Western society. And we're losing that every day. Our elders are dying. They're dying young. So all the stuff that we can put together today to share with each other, of Indigenous people and non-Indigenous people, to create something that will keep this world from dying. Because like everything else around us, the weather, this country is in a drought. All the different types of crops that are grown in this country, they take a lot of water. They take a lot of water to make it grow, to feed the animals, to the sheep, the cattle. This country hasn't got that much water left. This country hasn't got I suppose it hasn't got the caring people to look after it. And that's where a lot of it comes from. They keep talking about putting different things, making it right, and they keep talking about paying for people to put water back into the river. Why do they let people take water out? To water their crops of rice and cotton? Why would anyone in their right mind allow or give permission for anyone to grow rice and cotton in a country as dry as Australia? Australia is the most driest country in the world, and South Australia is the most driest country in Australia. And yet just across the border they've got cotton and rice growing. They've got dams, one dam is about one dam is about the size of Sydney Harbour. So that's how much water they pump out of the River Murray to water their cotton, water the rice. So if that water was let go, you've got people in this country now, this part of the country, Adelaide, they can't water their gardens. They can't use water too much. You have to go by odd and even numbers. It seems a shame that people have to live like that. But it's all about greed, all about me, all about my wealth, all about looking after me, not us. So when you look at things all around the world, it's like that. Not just in this country, every country around the world. A lot of people say what we spoke about earlier part, but this is a different country. We speak Australian. I said to a couple of people, you go to England and speak to them. They'll understand you, because the language you speak is English. You don't speak any other language. You go to the people that's sitting around in Parliament in England. The Westminster system is set up in this area, set up here in Australia. It's set up all over different parts of the English-speaking world. I think it's time that people start listening to Indigenous people. Listen to us as Aboriginal people. Listen to us about the land, about our creation stories. Why was this created? Why was the river created? Why was some of the hills and the mountains around this country was created? Why was the laws created? Certain groups, that you wasn't allowed to hunt this, He wasn't allowed to hunt that. When we talk about our ngachis, ngachi is a word in our language, means friend. And if that ngachi, that ducks that was here earlier part, some of our people, that's their ngachi. They're not allowed to eat that or kill that animal, but they don't stop anyone else doing it. Where they live in the area, that animal is in a safe zone. And it's all about looking after the environment. You can't eat that, you can't hunt that, you can't, but you can go and hunt and eat something else. And other people in that country, you might hunt their ngachi, but they can't stop you, because long as they don't hunt it, that animal is safe in their environment, in their part of the country. So usually when that animal finds out, they go back there and they live there. And they know that they're being looked after. So certain things we have to look after in this world so that it survives. And that includes plants, that includes water, that includes whatever is in this country. Because part of the country is a part of us. Everything in this country is a part of us. Everything in this world is a part of us. And we're a part of it. And that's the belief of indigenous peoples from all around the world. The mother, the earth, that's our mother. We go back to that. We come from it. And we go back there. And if people say, oh, but you don't, they bury you. You go back to the earth one way or the other, within being cremated or what. You still go back to the earth. You still go back to your mother. So our creation stories are about that. They're about laws that were set up in this land to protect us, but also protect parts of the country, to protect the animals, to protect the food the animals eat. Because once you destroy that food, you destroy that animal. And when you destroy that animal, you don't destroy another animal, because sometimes that animal needs that animal to survive. It's got the domino effect. Once you push that one, it knocks everything else down. So people should think sometimes before they go and do stuff. Think about what they're destroying. Think about all the stuff that was introduced into this country. The fish, how did they introduce why did they introduce the European carp? It destroyed nearly all the fish in the River Murray. Why did they introduce the cane toad? They can't stop the cane toad now, it's right across the country. From one on the northern parts of the country right across to the other. And they're complaining about it now. So, I think what we have to do is look at each other and learn from each other. Not just think that we know it all. Because every one of us knows a bit. And if we put all that together, then we educate each other about everything. Not trying to keep all that knowledge to yourself. And I suppose we're to blame in some ways with the knowledge that we know about these lands. We keep it to ourselves. That's why I'm out there educating the children. It's not just Aboriginal children. I educate all children in the program about the Aboriginal for a Day program. It's educating them about the land, how they can use the land, the stories, the dances. A lot of our dances are dances of the community get together, where you have fun together. Because when you look at it, we're not on this world for a long time. We're only here for a short time, and then we're gone. So if you change things within your little space of time here, it takes the rest of the society a long time to put that back into place again. All the stuff that was damaged, all the rivers, all the land, how they went through with big bulldozers and chains and ripped all the scrub, killed all the animals in the scrub. All the little birds, everything. They got a place in this world. They went through and they just rolled that through our country. And after that, then they employed our people to go and pick the stumps of them bushes. After all the stumps were gone, they went and employed us to pick all the stones up. So they made the farming land. They tried to make it look like England, I suppose. Make it look like their own country where they come from. If they wanted it to look like that so much, why didn't they stay home and live in their own country? But they didn't, they're here, so what we have to do is we have to educate people about how we can fix the country up, how we can be involved in teaching each other. Because in society today, we have to live together. In this country, we have to live together. We're not going away anywhere, and no one else is going home. So we have to learn to accept each other's different religions, different cultures, different way of life, different looking people, and work together. That's the only way that people will survive, if we start working together. And this is all over the world. If we've got a problem, talk it out. Get rid of that problem by speaking to each other. There's no barriers put up. We don't need barriers. All we need is each other to survive. The Aboriginal people's known that for thousands and thousands of years. That's why we didn't wipe each other out in wars, because we needed each other to survive. We had our differences, but they were done with a bit of argument. A few spears were thrown here and there, but we didn't wipe each other out, because we needed that, our next door neighbours. We needed each other as a race of people through this country. So that's all I got to say, and I hope that people listen. I hope that people tune in. I hope that people take notice to what the indigenous people of the world got to say about the country, how we can learn from each other, how we can help each other in all ways. I hope people tune into this and listen to it and start practicing it. So I thank you for inviting me to have my say about how we can help each other.